Hello, and welcome to the Bored Retired Guys YouTube channel. Today, one of the things that I've wasted my time with, get out of boredom, is a silver extraction from X-ray film. Now, it's a very simple process to do it, and it works, but the key thing is you must have X-rays from before 2018. Here I have 6.5 pounds of X-rays. These were all my wife's X-rays from before 2018. Over here, I have a stack of more of her X-rays from after 2018. Now there's a little mix. Some are before, some are done using the old method, and some are not. Now you're going to need X-ray films. You're going to need buckets. I use 4 buckets, 5 buckets actually. You're going to need a stripping bucket. The stripping bucket you just fill with chlorine bleach. And use protective gloves. Just household kitchen wash-up gloves are sufficient in the household bleach. And you will dip the X-rays into the bleach. As you dip them in and out, you'll see the black silver bromide come off the X-ray film, leaving you with a nice blue film. Now, once you have it down to the blue film, and you've taken off the majority of the silver bromide, you then go and wash them in plain water. I use 2 wash buckets, one that'll get rid of most of the chlorine bleach and most of any residual silver from the plastic film. Then I wash it a second time in a bigger bucket so I can more thoroughly wash it. Then I put aside to dry. And that's it. Over time, the chlorine stripping bucket will have a lot of suspended silver bromide or silver chloride now floating with inside the chlorine bleach. I will let that settle out overnight, pour off the chlorine bleach into another bucket, then take the precipitate or the residual silver chloride and put that into another bucket, washing out the original stripping bucket with chlorine bleach, and then pouring the chlorine bleach back into the bucket and continuing the process over and over and over again. So I've emptied that bleach bucket a couple of times, rinsed it out with chlorine bleach, got the silver gathered together, the silver chloride gathered together into a very small bucket, and over time, and I think I might have, off this 6.5 pounds, I think I might have, from the 6.5 pounds of X-ray film, I may have roughly a ½ ounce of pure silver. But that'll be another video, converting the silver chloride that I've extracted into pure silver, because it requires that I go and get a glass beaker and a torch and a crucible and other things which I really don't want to get just yet. So in the meantime, I'm just wasting my time stripping silver off the X-ray films. As I say, these X-rays here are mostly after 2018. So they use a printing process rather than a photographic process. So the ones before 2018 are using a photographic process using silver bromide. Those after 2018 are using a printing process using a carbon black print method. The films are still very similar. They're a PET blue film, though more and more nowadays they don't use the blue film. They just print it out on white paper. So they slow transition in the X-ray and imaging departments, diagnostic imaging, going from the old-fashioned photographic methodology into printing onto the plastic to now just printing straight on paper. Okay, so they still use the print on plastic method for CRTs, MRIs, and the like, but unlikely this is done with the silver process. This is done using carbon black and print from computer. So watch the process and learn. I thought it was fun doing, and I needed to get this part of the video done so I can waste my time dipping these into chlorine bleach. As I said, it'll be very quick for me to determine as I dip each individual one into chlorine bleach whether or not it has silver bromide on it or not. I was fortunate that these did, and that's seeing as I was having good results with the old ones, I kept going at it. But had I started with these new ones, I never even want to bother going further. But now that I have the silver bug, I'll wash these and see if I get any silver off of these. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. I'll be doing a couple of other things already. I have an old printer that I'm throwing out, and I'm going to disassemble it and hopefully use the motors and belts and drives inside of it to finish a 360-degree photographic turntable out of the scrap parts. But that'll be another video later on in the year. Thank you. Subscribe if you like, and enjoy the rest of the film. Thank you. Now, I've taken large size X-ray films and I've come down into something a bit more manageable. You can see the films. I want to find a fairly dark one. There we go. It's somewhat dark. That's a very easy process. Simply put it into the bleach. Now you may see it. We have a bunch of bubbles coming up off the X-ray film. And that's the silver chloride reacting, releasing hydrogen, chlorine, and oxygen gases. And you can see as I dip, you can see the black. That's silver coming off the X-ray films. Now you could just put the X-rays and let them soak in the bleach and then come back after 10 and 20 minutes and rinse them off. But I find it's just as easy, and I think more efficient generally, with fresh chlorine bleach to just use a dipping action. Now, because of surface tension of bleach and the film, it's going to hold up here at the bottom a bit longer or harder. Very difficult to get out if it's just soaking there. So that's why I have the tendency of doing the dipping. Now I can tell because of the amount of silver that's come off and how slowly that's coming off, that this solution is probably far more water than it is sodium hypochlorite or bleach. So this is getting very diluted, because normally that would be clean already. And I don't see it clean, so I think I'm going to have to recharge my stripping solution. And that's why I bought some pool chlorine. Pool chlorine and household bleach are the same thing, but it has to be liquid pool chlorine, which is sodium hypochlorite, whereas granular pool chlorine is calcium chloride. And I did not want to add an additional chemical into the process that I would have to extract out of the silver at the end. So you can see the black coming off, and that is silver chloride. I don't know why this film, normally they get much cleaner than that, but that's why we have the wash buckets to capture this little bit. So let me grab the first wash bucket. And the second wash bucket. And that comes up pretty clear, pretty clean. And we put those aside to further drip dry. And that's the process. After a while, what I'll do shortly is I'll let that settle again, now that I've disturbed it. And I will siphon this bleach off, filter it into this bleach bucket. You can see a little bit of silver still in there from pouring that into here. I'll let it settle. And then I'll pour some back and recharge it with the pool chlorine to bring up the chlorine concentration again. And I just want the bucket to be a little bit lower in volume. Now I'm not sure that I can show you. Let me see. Oh yeah. Let me change the camera angle a bit. Okay. Now hopefully you can see it there. All that black at the bottom of the bucket is the silver precipitate that's come out. Then that I will pour off into another bucket. Now this is what I'm going to end up with. That is silver chloride. I can pour off the top chlorine bleach back into the bleach bucket. But you see how easily it mixes up? That's very, very fine, like dust.